Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video and a Warhammer The Old World video too. This is a double hitter. You see, the channel's been very heavily focused on Cafe lately, which makes sense. Obviously, Creative Assembly and Games Workshop are releasing little tidbits of lore here and there. And while that is very exciting, since Cafe's announcement, many of us have been looking towards Ind, Nippon, all the different races and countries of the Warhammer Fantasy universe, which was never officially added into the tabletop, and we've been looking for them for not only the Old World, but also the Total War series. Now, before we begin, keep in mind that this is of course speculation, but given recent trends, there is a reason to back this up. So during yesterday's reveals, Games Workshop, like Total War, took advantage of the situation and posted their article pretty much everywhere. This is of course to drum up some good faith within the community, as Cafe has been long requested since, what, the 80s on the tabletop? Obviously, loads of people were commenting on said post, and we had one fairly interesting one here, which says, I think it's fairly well off. I'm one for the Cafe expansion. Would you think you would do Ind or Nippon? Maybe some like samurai units with good melee, and have it be like Land Bretonians, but more faster. Now, the reason why this comment is so interesting is because Games Workshop, through their Warhammer official Instagram, replied, we may well see more regions of the Old World in the future. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, this is why it's so important. Generally, when many people ask questions, unless something's coming up, most likely Warhammer officials tend to ignore comments. This might be them hype building, but then again, it's something which looks like they're trying to hint at the possible future for Ind and Nippon, more or less, as, well, they're both very highly requested factions for the Old World and for the Total War series. Why would this work for both? Well, just like Cafe, they can cross-promote the miniatures, which obviously makes a lot of sense, and, well, if they're making rules for 8th edition to then transfer to Old World, that's what they did with Cafe, and that's what helps out to create the faction for Total War Warhammer. Now, before we progress, we're going to have to divide this video into two separate sections, one for Warhammer The Old World and one for the Total War series, as there's different reasons why. So let's just start off with Warhammer The Old World, as I think that's the main area. So for Warhammer The Old World, it makes sense to introduce loads of new races and factions. This is mainly because new races and factions means new models, which means new sales. It was also confirmed by Games Workshop that your old armies will also be usable, meaning that pretty much anything that's been added into Total War Warhammer, for reference to anyone who doesn't play the tabletop, will be usable at the very start, so anyone who's kept their old armies, or perhaps rebased them to Age of Sigmar and might want to rebase them back to squares, is able to do that. There's not that many people in the world that decided to burn their armies like an absolute edgelord. I, for example, have armies of pretty much every established race and faction which had an army book throughout the history of Warhammer Fantasy, so I'm not too interested in new Skaven models, for example, but I would be more interested in Nippon models, Kefean models, Ind models. Many of the old fans will want something new, and let's be honest, a lot of the marketing for Old World is being centered around Warhammer Fantasy fans of the past to try and get them back in, and obviously that of Total War Warhammer fans. It makes a lot of sense to be able to introduce new factions to those who already might have all of them or already have the races that they're interested in, just to be able to get a few extra sales. Obviously, the introduction of new races and factions, keep in mind they're not new, but properly fleshing them out, won't only mean just models, but it will also mean new Black Library books and so on, which obviously then translates to more cash. Now, we are aware that Games Workshop don't tend to think too well when it comes to these types of things, but I think that even they know that this is easy money, and they want to explore that. I mean, you would too, wouldn't you? Which then leads us to Total War Warhammer, as obviously we have to look at it in a certain number of ways. Cross-promotion, yeah, I mean, that's very obvious. There's a lot of people who got into Total War Warhammer who wanted to get into Warhammer Fantasy Tabletop, but then, yeah, they were met with Age of Sigmar, and it's not the same. So obviously when it comes to this, Old World will likely bring a lot more sales to the tabletop. But if we look at it from a Total War point of view, this is easy DLC, is it not? Keep in mind that obviously, like I said, they made rules for Cathay, which then translated to Total War Warhammer, and this is very doable. If we pull up the world map, we can see that the Warhammer Fantasy world is, well, absolutely massive, and we still don't have it properly filled out. There's a lot of different missing races and factions. The addition of Grand Cathay into the Total War series means that we have a rather large portion of the Warhammer universe which was never really explored too much. But now we do have a few blank spots which are so close to Cathay, it would be a massive shame if they were never added in specifically, as you need to look at that as a geographical point of view. The kingdoms of Ind are right next to the Mountains of Morn, the Chaos Dwarfs in the Darklands, and of course Cathay. That's a massive blank spot which, if you walk through and it ends up being Empire clones again, that's going to be incredibly disappointing. We also do know that Creative Assembly did state that they plan to support Warhammer 3 for years to come, and eventually we're going to run out of possible Lord packs because units will run out eventually, which would then lead up to character packs, but character packs won't add in that much difference. In fact, characters generally don't change up playstyles too radically, so race packs would work really well, and I do think that we'll eventually end up seeing, say, Ind sooner than we think, as normally we get, what, 2 race packs per game, not including the pre-order incentive? The pre-order is likely to be, of course, the Ogre Kingdoms, which leaves us with, say, the Chaos Dwarves and maybe the Dogs of War. We still don't know what the hell's happening with that, but they could still add in more, and to be honest, that works out really well. Ind and Nippon would add in some more diversity into the game and add in new playstyles, which means that people will be incentivized to play more. Again, this could likely be rampant speculation, but we have to take into account that, as I said earlier in the video, Games Workshop tend to ignore stuff unless they're trying to hint at something. And I really do think that we'll eventually end up seeing Ind or Nippon in both Old World and, of course, the Total War series. I could be wrong, but we'll have to wait and see. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.